Let me introduce you all to Pokemon Mythoria, a brand new Pokemon Fakemon region based on Greek mythology. Now this region is created by Mythorea region, who you can find on Instagram, and I'll link it down in the description for you to go and check them out. We're first going to meet Professor Olive, who is of course based on the olive tree, which is perfect for a Greek region, and he is going to introduce us to our starter Pokemon. So let's get straight into the Mythorea region. Our grass type starter is called Minotaur and is obviously based on a Minotaur. I love how it's got a leafy grassy bush around his neck. He's also got a leaf on his tail as well. It looks quite cute. Evolves into Bushytaur, which is now getting a little bit more angrier, but of course that bush, it's not just around the neck, it's the entire body, and the tail has become much bushier as well. And I absolutely love its final evolution in Forestor, which is now a grass and fighting type Pokemon. It looks really angry, and I love that the horns are looking really dangerous as well. Very pointed, but also got some extra jagged parts coming off it as well. Those little scars on the arm and just the muscly look have a really intense look for this Minotaur Pokemon. I really like this one. Our fire type starter is called Griffchick and is of course based on a griffin. I love that it's on all fours, and we're going to see if it stays on all fours as it evolves as well. Because I'm like a lot of people, I don't like it when a quadrupedal becomes a bipedal. But at the moment, this looks really cool and really cute actually. Evolves into Griffhawk. Oh, I like the eyeliner or the dark lines around its eyes. That kind of gives it a bit of an intense look, which I really like. Still very akin to the griffin. You can see it's got those talons on the front legs, but kind of like a mammal back half with those back legs, which are really nice. And it does stay on all fours when it evolves into Grafeagle, which is now fire and flying type Pokemon. I love this absolute look, those dark looks around the eyes, but the coloring, like the whitey creamy color with that maroony color, works really, really well. I really like this design as well. And then lastly, our water type starter Pokemon is called Hippofowl, which is based on a hippocampus. And a hippocampus is kind of like a half fish, half horse mythological animal. So we can see it definitely looks like a horse here, but has fins coming out, and the tail looks like seaweed as well. And even some little fins on the hooves there, which are quite nice. And then evolves into Hippos, which is now kind of interesting because it's definitely become a little bit more aquatic. It still looks like a horse because it's got those legs, but definitely looks more aquatic with that long, slender tail that it has. It starts to have got a bit of a red helmet on its head as well, which is kind of cool. And then lastly evolves into Hippomagnus, which is now a water and dragon type Pokemon. Definitely become more aquatic as it evolves again. The hooves have become more like fins. That tail is really, really long now. And we can see that red look on the head is actually like a helmet, but kind of like a crown as well. It has Magnus in its name, and that comes from the word Charlemagne, which was of course a king, but also based in its description as well, because it is the ruler of the seas and it likes to conquer lots of different water domains in the region as well. All three are really cool starters, but I think I'm going to take the grass type starter. Let me know down in the comments which one you're going to pick. All right, let's move into Route 1 next. Our first Route 1 Pokemon is Pidfox, which is a pure dark type Pokemon. Now, this Pokemon line is based on the Tumesian fox, which is a fox in Greek mythology that can never be caught. And then evolves into Zoroartian, which is now a lot larger, and we can see that tail is quite long as well. I like how it looks really bushy and almost unkempt in a way. I think that's a really cool look on it. It looks really nice and kind of natural, I guess. Now, the rival to that Pokemon is called Galalape, and this is a pure normal type Pokemon. Now, it's the rival because this is based on Lailaps, which is a hound in Greek mythology that can catch anything that it chases. And it is in a paradox where it is forever chasing the Tumesian fox, and the Tumesian fox is forever uncatchable. It evolves into Huntown, which is definitely looking a little bit more like the reference picture I just showed you. We can see it's got some crazy eyes there, which I absolutely love, but this Pokemon is forever chasing. Next, we have the Route 1 bird, which is called Harpy, which is a pure flying type Pokemon. Now, this is based on a Harpy, both the Harpy Eagle, but also the Harpy from Greek mythology as well. This looks kind of cute at the moment. It's kind of putting its feathers together doing this, which is cute. It evolves into Harp Kid, so kind of that adolescent middle stage, which definitely makes sense here. I feel the earlier evolution kind of had a bit of a strange look with the crown on its head, I guess, and the mouth didn't really have a beak, but we can definitely see that's more of a crown look on its head there, that golden look. But then that golden look on the face is now formed more of a helmet when it evolves into Harpyria, which is a flying and fighting type Pokemon. As well as Harpies, it is also based on Valkyries now, which we can definitely see in that helmet look there. Overall, a bunch of really cool inspirations for a cool Route 1 mon. Next, we're going into the Pika clone for the region. This is Frostpark, which is an electric and ice type Pokemon. It is based on a Stoat, and I love that instead of like the traditional red circles you'd see for a Pika clone, it's got almost little like icy lightning bolts on its cheek, which I think is quite cute and definitely matches its typing. It evolves into Frostbolt. So now that tail is kind of like a weapon. It's really long and it's holding it, but you can see it's got jagged icicles on the tip of that tail. And those whiskers have made kind of icy lightning bolts as well. It then has a third evolution. Like in Gen 9, we have a third evolution for a Pika clone, which is really interesting. This is Electricical. And now that icy almost sword on the end of its tail is ginormous, but it's got the icy fluff around its neck, those icy whiskers, the ice coming out of its ears. Really cool combination of the electric and ice typing. We have Larvate, the pure bug type Pokemon, and this is based on an ant larvae. So it doesn't really look like much at the moment. It looks very defenseless, really. It evolves into Pupin, so kind of that cocoon Pokemon that we see for a lot of Route 1 bugs, but this actually has a 4-way split evolution. The first one is Work Ant, which is a bug and normal type Pokemon, obviously based on a worker ant, but those mandibles look quite large actually. And then the second evolution is Queen Ant, which is a bug and psychic type Pokemon. This is obviously looking a lot bigger than the worker ant. Obviously the queen is a lot larger compared to the rest of the colony, and we can see it's got a very large abdomen as well. I feel it needs like a little crown or something on top though, but that looks really cool. Our third evolution is King Gnat, which is a bug and flying type Pokemon. So this one has wings now, so that is really interesting. Of course, we have some ants that have wings, but then we have our last evolution, which is Troy Ant, and this is definitely my favorite of the region. This is a bug and fighting type Pokemon now, based on our soldier ants, but of course has that Spartan helmet look. And it's kind of weird to say for an ant, but it definitely looks kind of muscly. I think it's those spiky forearms give it a different look. But all of this line, and especially Troyan, are based on the Myrmidons, which are a mythological army that are said to be descended from ants. Then next we have Lilform, which is a pure fairy type Pokemon. Now this is obviously based on a faun, but it is also based on Pan, who plays a musical instrument. So this looks very cute. I love the bright blue eyes that it has, look very large. It's got a little bell on its neck as well. But then its evolution is quite interesting. This is called Bipofawn, and this actually has 2 different forms. It has a good form, but if you look carefully at this Pokemon here, you can see it's got a bit of a shadow in the background. So that was the good form, and this is the evil form. So now the shadow has swapped with the good form, and now the shadow is in the present. So this does look very evil. It hasn't got those bright pinks and bright blues anymore. It's darker, it's got those red eyes, but definitely has a very evil look to it. But you can see in the background of that, its shadow is the good form. Then next we have Ghost Pup, which is a ghost and normal type Pokemon. Now this is based on the Nemean lion, which was actually slain by Hercules. So it's kind of cool to have a lion Pokemon, but it's a ghost type, but that's because I guess in Greek mythology it has died. So I think this looks really cool. I love the blue colorings. I think that looks really nice with sort of the ghostly spectral elements on the tail and the top of their head there. Now, first is the female split evolution. This is Nemeliona, so obviously based on a lioness here. We can see those ghostly elements have become much larger, especially on their head there, and does remind me a lot of the female Pyro as well. And then, of course, our male evolution is Nemelion. So this is its dominant form. So this is looking very aggressive, and it's also based on Mufasa as well. And that's because it has a second form, which is the exiled form. And if you have a look at this, it is based on Scar. It has that scar over its eye. So we've got our Mufasa and our Scar version here. And this one, as it is exiled, it's got some scratches and some scars all along its body. It looks very ferocious like the other form as well, but definitely looks a little bit more skinnier and not as muscly. Then next we have Serastag, which is a normal and steel type Pokemon. Now this is based on the Serenian Hind, otherwise known as the Golden Horned Deer. And we can see this Pokemon does look kind of metallic. You can see the steel typing there with almost like a chest plate over its chest, but also like a silver helmet as well. But those golden horns on the top of its head are definitely standing out compared to the rest of the Pokemon. But I do love its evolution in Divrinia. Those antlers have become really large now and definitely very, very golden. That armor plating on the front of the Pokemon, so the chest and those front legs as well as the helmet. Really cool look here. Then next we have Dodoxic, which is a poison and steel type Pokemon. This is based on a dodo, but also has a plague doctor mask over its face as well, which is really interesting because then it's spurting out toxic gas out of its wings. I love the evolution in Plagueustimp though. It's become much larger and those toxic gases are coming out of both of its wings now. Now these are based on Stymphalian birds, which are very vicious and very voracious birds in Greek mythology. So this Pokemon looks extremely deadly in lots of different ways. Then next we have a Prentor, which is a pure fighting type Pokemon, obviously based on a Centaur, but this just looks like a very juvenile version as well. Very, very young, but still looks like he can put up quite a punch. Evolves into Phytol, so that kind of adolescent version now. I like the sort of ready mohawk that it's got down its back and head as well. But it's also got those fighting straps on its tail, but on its hooves as well, and its wrists. And then its final evolution in Centauria, combining Centaur but with Warrior as well. I love like the fighting stance that it's got. It looks like it's about to punch. It's very muscly. It's got a big scar on its chest, on its back hind as well. Then we have Cyclops, which is also a pure fighting type Pokemon, obviously based on a Cyclops. It's got a little horn on its head, which is kind of cute actually, but of course has that big bat. It evolves into Titanite, so now getting a little bit bigger and a little bit hairier now. And then its final evolution in Titanops, obviously has Titan in its name. This Pokemon is huge and it still looks very muscly, very intense, and I love the giant teeth that it has. Now, these previous two lines I got to show you have a massive rivalry together. The only way to evolve the middle evolution here is to defeat a Phytor, which is the middle evolution of the Centaur Pokemon. And the only way to evolve a Phytor is to defeat the middle evolution of the Cyclops Pokemon. So that intense rivalry is always continuing, and I love that it's the only way to get into that third evolution there. I think that's a really clever way to evolve a Pokemon. Next, going into the fossil Pokemon for the region, there are 3 fossils. Now, the first is the Hook Claw fossil, and that revives into Dynogma, which is a rock and fire type Pokemon. Now, this is based on the Spinosaurus, as we can see that massive flame spine on its back, but also on the top of its head as well. But the main thing I absolutely love is that lava tongue that it's got. That is such a cool addition. It evolves into Spinorgma, so it's now become a lot larger, and as well as that flame on its spine, you can see a bit of smoke, I think that is, or maybe rocks on that spike as well. So that actually separates it, so it's got 2 large flame spines on its back, which I think just looks really, really cool. Same design on its head as well, but of course that tongue as well looks really, really nice. The second is the Sharp Talon fossil, and that evolves into Raptone. So now this one is based on the Velociraptor. At the moment, it just has very, very tiny little arms, but it does have a giant tail and giant legs, like raptors do anyways. Looking a little bit more like a traditional Velociraptor when it evolves into Raptor-Rock, it does have those feathers along its arms there with those claws as well. That stony look on the top of its head with that beak as well is a cool addition. I like that a lot. And then the last is the Hard Tooth fossil, and that evolves into Stonkleos, which is a rock and water type Pokemon. Now, this is based on the extinct Dunkleosteus, which has a very interesting shape to it. You can definitely see that rocky tooth look on the front of its head as well there. But it does have a bit of a derpy look to it, which I think the Dunkleosteus does a little bit anyways. Evolves into Rockleosteus, which is now giant. Of course, the Dunkleosteus is quite large. This is giant as well. You wouldn't think this Pokemon would be able to swim or float because of how large and how rocky it is, but a really cool design. Then next we have Ceradon, which is a water and fairy type Pokemon. Now, this line are based on sirens, which are quite popular in Greek mythology. Does look quite nice. The pinks and the blues look quite nice for a color combo here. It works really well. It evolves into Mermaiden, so now it's become more of that adolescent kind of look. It's got that shell on its chest as well, but it's really interesting. I think the tail becoming like a pink love heart definitely fits the siren vibe. And then its final evolution is Mermaidy, so again, quite nice, that adult form there. Not too dissimilar from its middle evolution, but overall just a nicely designed mon, I think. And then next, our first Mythorean form, and that is Mythorean Dwebble. This is a bug and rock type. I love that the shell on its back has become that Greek pot. It looks really nice with that design and just works really well together. Of course, it evolves into our Mythorean Crustle, so now it's got the huge Pantheon on its back there instead of that really large boulder. So the Pantheon, very iconic with ancient Greece. And then the new evolution is Crustolympus. So now this Pokemon is even more giant. This has got Mount Olympus on its back, which of course is the home of the gods. This is huge. I love that almost like spiral design with the different like browns and oranges throughout it. And the top of it is up in the clouds because it is so giant. But even just the face of it with like a mustache and a beard and really bushy eyebrows does make it look really old. So I think that whole tied together works really, really well. Next is Toxicor, which is a poison and dark type Pokemon. This is based on the Manticore. So you can see that scorpion tail, that very lion-esque look kind of look. We've got those wings as well. Overall looks really, really nice. I love the design for this, and those stark yellow eyes really stand out from the rest of the dark colors here. Then evolves into Mantiscorp, and I think the biggest change here is its tail. Its tail is giant now with a massive stinger on it, but this looks really nice. Those horns are becoming quite large now as well. And there's final evolution in Mansathera, again looking really, really nice. Those front forelimbs are quite different to the back ones. They're definitely very large and very muscly, but those back ones have very intense claws. They look like they've got some venom in those back claws as well. Overall, a really cool design for a really interesting mythological animal. Next, we have Griturt, which is a pure ground type Pokemon. This is based on the Greek tortoise, which kind of has that back shell and coloring kind of design here, but overall looks quite cute. This actually has a 2-way split evolution. If you evolve the Pokemon on land, it becomes Terracotoise. Obviously has terracotta in the name, but again, kind of following that design of the Greek tortoise here, just much bigger and almost looks a bit older as well. But this is becoming ground and rock type now. But if you evolve Griturt in the water, it becomes more of a sea turtle based design, and this is called Sea Turtle. So now, of course, based on a sea turtle instead of the tortoise, so it has front flippers instead of front legs. Definitely looks more aquatic as well. But overall, the basic design still very similar. You can see in that shell, and of course, that changes to a ground and water type as well. Next, we have Beetlefus, which is a bug and ground type Pokemon. Now, this is obviously based on a dung beetle and does remind me a lot of Relor, but this is actually based on Sisyphus, who in Greek mythology is forever pushing a massive boulder up a hill, and then when he gets to the top, it falls back down again. I absolutely love, though, that there's some kind of little critter or little Pokemon that's stuck in their massive ball of dung as well. It evolves into Escaratlas, which is now changed from being based on Sisyphus to being based on Atlas, who is holding the earth, and that's what this looks like here. Now, the dung beetle has changed into more of a rhino beetle now, and you can see it's much stronger and is able to lift that above its head. It must be a massive Pokemon because look, it's got a little oddish and a little canopy tail and probably a whole bunch of other things that are stuck in there as well. Next is Icarus, which is a normal and flying type Pokemon. This definitely looks very humanoid. It doesn't so much look like a Pokemon. I think it's because it's got like the sticks and the feathers attached to that Pokemon. Obviously based on Icarus, who created their own wings but then flew too close to the sun. It evolves into Fanticarus, obviously has Phantom in its name. It's now a ghost and flying type Pokemon because of course Icarus did die. This definitely looks very waxy and very spiritual as well because of those wax wings that melted. It definitely looks like it's at peace though, which is nice, I suppose. Next, we have Statling, which is an electric and flying type Pokemon. Now, this is based off a sheep, but looks very similar to Mareep, and that's because it's actually a convergent evolution to Mareep, kind of like we have Diglett and Wiglet. Now, the entire line here has a normal mode, which is this one here, but also has a charged mode. From instead of being like just a normal white fluffy cloud, now it becomes a cumulonimbus cloud, which is very, very stormy. I love the electric sparks that are coming through here. It looks really, really nice. But I think it's so cute how it's so big and so fluffy, the legs can't even touch the ground. Its evolution in Capritic has the same kind of design, but this is now more so based on Flaffy. But again, looking very large. At least it looks like it could be able to touch the ground with its feet here, but of course we've got our charge mode as well. Again, love the charge mode. Really cool with the lightning here. And then its last evolution, Electronimbus, being the convergent evolution to Ampharos. Its body's looking a lot more like Ampharos. It's not as fluffy as it was as well. And I'll show you the charge mode as well, of course, because that is awesome. I love this whole line. Then next we have the Mythorean Tauros, which is a normal and ice type Pokemon. So those ice elements are definitely coming in the horns and the hooves here. It does have a brand new evolution though, and that evolution is Kratoris. So now this looks amazing. Quite different. It definitely looks very fluffy and definitely suited to more of a cold climate. It's got icicles all along the horn, the fluffy beard, that bull nose. Now this is based on the Cretan bull, which is a majestic white bull in Greek mythology. Then next we have Mythorean Tinkatink. Now this is a fire and steel type Pokemon, but it's kind of like the male version of Tinkatink, which is definitely looking very feminine. This is more masculine looking. Evolves into Tinkertuff, and of course that hammer getting much larger. The Pokemon doesn't look that much different in size, but that hammer being its main feature has become much, much larger now. And then its final evolution, of course, in Mythorean Tinkerton. I love the design. I love the whole Tinkatink line in Scarlet and Violet is awesome, but the Mythorean version is just as cool. That hammer has such a cool look on it with the spike on the back and the spikes on the top of it. But this whole line is based off Hephaestus, who is the Greek god of the forge. So this definitely looks like a blacksmith in a way with that massive hammer. Next is Laika, which is a pure dark type Pokemon, which is definitely looking a lot like a wolf. I wish it wasn't bipedal, but that's because it's more so based on a werewolf rather than just a wolf itself. It does have really sharp claws, but it does have a bit of an interesting look there. I think the red eyes and the red ears look quite nice. And then evolves into Laika Wolf, which definitely looks a bit more aggressive now with those claws, but also with that teeth as well. Now, this is based on Lycaon, which was actually a person that was turned into a wolf as a punishment by Zeus. Next, we have a new evolution for Lovedisk, which I think definitely deserves a new evolution. This is Lovekiss, which is a water and fairy type Pokemon. Now, we have a different male and female version. Still looks like the basic heart-shaped fish that we have, but definitely has some extra frills on the top and the bottom of it as well. And that also has a new evolution, and they kind of combine here when they make Lavaros. I think this looks amazing. Now, this is based on Eros, which is the Greek god of love, and like Cupid, it has a bow and arrow as well. So that whole combination all comes really well together for a Lovedisk evolution. I think this works really, really well. Then next we have Chillinx, which is quite a different vibe here. It is a psychic and ice type Pokemon, but look at those eyes. They look like they're crazy eyes. I don't know, like spirals in them. Really, really interesting design here for a Lynx-based Pokemon. I've seen a lot of Lynx Fakemon before, but not one that looks like this. This is really interesting. It evolves into Cryo-Lynx and now become a lot hairier and a lot larger, of course, but those psychic eyes definitely give it a completely different vibe. I like the saber teeth that it's got as well. That looks really nice. Then next we've got Grizzly, which is a grass and normal type Pokemon. Now this is based on a grizzly bear. It almost looks like a grass type starter Pokemon, I think, to be honest. And the rest of the line kind of have that vibe as well. Evolves into Grizzly, which has now become a grass and psychic type Pokemon. Now, as well as a grizzly bear, it's also based on a druid. And we can see that stick that it's got is kind of like a walking stick, but it's also used as a staff as well. It has got that psychic typing. I love the big grassy, mossy look over its back as well. It looks really nice. And I absolutely love its final evolution in Druid Arctos. That massive staff walking stick that it's got. It does look a bit older now, but again, that mossy, grassy look over its entire back. That big leaf on its head, the flowers, all of it coming together look really, really nice. I like this Pokemon a lot. Then next we have Mythoria and Slakoth, which is a normal and fighting type Pokemon. Now, quite different to our normal lazy looking Slakoth. This one definitely looks a little bit more active. It is up and about. It looks quite angry. Looks like it's ready for a fight. It evolves into Vigoroth, which is now looking a lot like a caveman. We can see it's quite hairy and bushy, but it's also got that like caveman bone through its hair. The new evolution, instead of slacking, is Slackon, and this is based on King Kong. So definitely looking like a giant gorilla here on two legs. It's got really big, bushy, muscly arms and legs. It's got a big scar on its body as well, but of course that look in its face and just the whole demeanor of this Pokemon is definitely looking very aggressive and not so lazy like slacking. And then next we have Mythorия and Larvitar, which is a rock and dragon type Pokemon. We can see we've got this blue glowy aura coming out of its cheeks and its knees, and even like the tops of its head here, it's got a little bit of a glow to it. This line is based on Godzilla, and we can definitely see the Godzilla inspiration in here. Now this actually has two forms. It has the combat mode, which is this one, and then it has the normal mode. So the normal mode doesn't have all the glowy parts coming out of it. Of course, it evolves into Mythorия and Pupitar, so we've got that same kind of vibe here. This is our combat mode with the bluey glow all around its body, but then the normal mode just looks very, very plain. But then it has a brand new evolution in Tyrazilla. Definitely got Godzilla looks. I think even just the spines on the back are very, very similar to Godzilla, and we can see it's got a big blue glow coming from its mouth, like we have that aura beam from Godzilla as well. I'll definitely show you the normal form as well, of course, but what I really love is the combat mode. Looks absolutely phenomenal. I hope you guys have enjoyed going through the Mythoria region with me. These are my favorite Pokemon on screen. I want you to comment your favorites as well. Now, the artist is still working on the rest of this region, but when it's done, I would love to create a full dex video for that. So make sure you subscribe to check it when it's out. If you love the ancient Greek vibe for this region, make sure you check out the Vepos region as well, which is also based on ancient Greece, and I'll see you in the next one.